Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog! Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wakeangel2K1, because between you and me, they're way past cool.
Hello my friends, this is Wakeangel2K1. I hope you like the new intro sequence. This is a personal project that I took up on a whim when I discovered the base figure worked perfectly. It is Tangle the Lemur. Yes, one of the beloved new characters from the IDW Sonic the Hedgehog comic, who is, along with Whisper the Wolf, in an official video game, which is just awesome. The base figure for Tangle is this Daenerys Targaryen figure, which some of you, if you have really good memories, may recognize from my channel. I used this very Daenerys figure to make a cast of her face for a Maria custom. So yes, this isn't the first time that this particular figure has appeared on my channel, although she has kind of just been sitting next to my desk for all this time without me really knowing what to do with her, and then one day, just idly messing around with a bunch of figure bases, I happened to realize that if I took the blue skirt piece off, underneath the body actually has the perfect shape for Tangle's slim physique. Like, it's uncanny, actually. So I'm like, oh, alright. Just like when I found that Louise figure and realized it would make the perfect cream, this is a thing that I cannot just stand by. I won't be able to rest properly until I get this done, so let's do it. It's also kind of like a cousin of how I did the Bunny figure, because like in Bunny's case, I just picked up I just happened to pick up this figure that was on deep clearance, so I figured I may as well. And then like when I was contemplating, I was like, oh hey, this thing I just bought so happens to fit. The only difference is that this one took me a couple of years to realize. Okay, so, I should go back to here, because it's more about just the dismantling. The head, and shoes, and hands are all based off of the official 3D models. Once again, ripped by Corey Sonic Fan. Thanks, bro. And the tail is left over from Incineroar, the Incineroar figure that I used to make Prince Sidon from Breath of the Wild. Yeah, this is it making its return. Now, if I can just find a use for his giant hands, I will have completely utilized that Incineroar figure. Well, except for its head. I'll still have its severed head. That's weird. Okay, so let's actually get to the part where I customized. The body, relatively minor. I just had to sculpt a little bit of those little fur tufts to come out of the top of Tangle's little exercise tank top. I guess that's what I'm going to call it. And then a body repaint. Like, it's pretty simple and everything. Like I said, the Daenerys Targaryen body is actually the perfect shape. Like, look at that. Doesn't that just kind of look like what an official Tangle torso would look like if you were to see one? I mean, it's kind of on the nose. The arms were simple enough. I wanted to capture that sports tape wrapped around the wrist look that Tangle has. I'm wondering if that's a brief little nod to the Sonic Boom continuity. Like, because we all know that there was a brief, an 11-issue Sonic Boom comic that Archie Publications put out too, and like, it's the same creative team that worked on the Archie comics that worked on the IDW comics, so you think when they did the character designs here, like, hey, let's just do a little tiny nod to the Sonic Boom thing to remind everybody that was a thing that existed for a few years. I don't know. Anyway, this is painter's tape, cut into a really thin strip and wrapped around the arms to look like sports tape. Funny how that works out for action figures. The hand, like I said, is a 3D print based off of the video game. And I simply cut off the hands from the wrist pegs of the Daenerys figure so that she could use her original arms. So that is how I did this. So, yep, there we go. Funny thing, the hand, I believe it's the left hand, is the last thing that I was able to successfully print on my 3D printer before that clog put it out of commission. I noticed that there was some issues with it. I tried altering the model to make it look better, but then it didn't work anymore. So I was forced to take the imperfect print of the hand and fix it up with epoxy sculpt. So if somebody can notice something weird looking in the fingers of the right hand, then there you go. Okay, so the legs are pretty much the same thing. I printed out the 3D model for her feet, and then I stuck the ankle pegs into the shoes, and then put the legs onto them and painted them. Now, this is where I will admit I made a little mistake. I should have drilled my Dremel deeper into the shoe so I could stick the ankle pegs in deeper. As it stands now, I did not quite put them deep enough, and it makes the legs a little bit too long. So as a result, this Tangle figure stands just a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch too tall. Like, it's not so big a deal that I want to go through all the effort to fix it, especially because those ankles are held in with epoxy, and I'm afraid if I try to take them out, I'm going to damage the plastic, which is easier to damage than the epoxy that's holding them together. So I feel that for now, at least until I can feel confident that I'd be able to make new shoes if I needed to, I'm going to leave it like this. Tangle's just a tiny bit taller. It's not even really that big a deal. And yes, that was the legs. So that leaves the head and the tail. So let's do the head first. It is a 3D print of Tangle's head, which printed relatively cleanly. I only needed to do a little tiny bit of touch up on one of the tufts of hair on the back of her head, and then painted it. And Tangle has a color scheme that's simple but also kind of annoying because it's white with light gray and slightly darker gray, and it's really hard to get light gray and darker gray to paint well. Like, it's annoying. It's just light colors that require a lot of coats, and then having to get the detail work correct multiple times is just a pain. And then the tail is Incineroar's tail with a bunch of extra floof sculpted onto the tip of it. And in order to mount it onto the back of the figure... Oh, by the way, in order to attach Tangle's head to the body, I had to cut off the ball joint from Daenerys. That is because it is too big, and it would go too deep into the head, compromising the structure. So I cut it off, but if you look, I left a tiny bit at the top to be more of a mushroom cap. I found an interesting little thing to do. If you drill into this plastic with the tool, my Dremel tool, the heat melts the plastic slightly and makes it soft inside. Then you can stick them together, and it re-hardens, and it allows it to embrace a slight mushroom cap. So I put Tangle's head on there, and it's snug, and it rotates around, and I don't need to use any craft foam to add friction. So that's kind of cool. I think I'll use this this technique. Although it does mean that you have to be fast with your assembly, because if you give it too much time to cool, then it'll cool and then it won't comport to the shape. Just saying. Speaking of things that required warmer plastic, I did the exact same thing to the tail. To the left, you see what's basically the Mega Construx Mini's Evil Lynn's staff. Her staff is just a stick that the figure can hold, but that little silver thing at the end is an actual Mega Construx ball joint. It's useful for painting because I can mount heads on it, or the legs, so that I can do the painting without having to worry about them touching anything. But in this context, what it was useful for was me using my Dremel to drill into the tail a hole just slightly smaller than the ball. Then, after pulling the Dremel out, it was still soft from the heat of the friction, and I shoved the ball into that. It causes the tail to bulge out into a shape that wraps around the ball joint. As the plastic cools back down, this results in something that snugly grips that ball joint so it won't fall off. I then just had to drill a small hole into Tangle's rear end, and then glue the peg into it. So this results in a tail that is articulated but won't fall off, which is great. So, taking a look, this is the completed Tangle figure. The only real flaw of the Daenerys figure is that she has simple ball-jointed shoulders, which do not afford her a very good posability range. The Ellen Ripley figure that I used to make Bunny had double ball-jointed shoulders, which afforded the shoulders almost as much range of movement as a pin disc would do. But yes, Tangle's shoulders are a little bit more restricted because of the nature of the single ball joint. However, she is still posable, and she can even stand in certain ways with that tail upwards. So I'm going to call that a win, because I was really afraid that I would be forced to constantly tripod her with that tail, because it's just so massive. And here's a side-by-side picture of her with a Jakks Sonic the Hedgehog figure. As you can see, she is just a little bit too tall, but it's not by enough to bug me, and I can easily shorten her legs just that little bit to make up the difference in size, if I was really inclined to. Whew, I talk so much I overwhelm my throat. But that is the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and we will catch you next time. This is Wakeangel2K1 signing off.